Fantasy romance anime hit different when the world building slaps, the characters adore each other loudly, and the plot twists knock your soul sideways. Today, we're counting down 10 fantasy romance series that grabbed me instantly from episode 1. Starting off with number 10, Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. From the very first episode, this show looked me in the eyes and said, yes, we're doing Beauty and the Beast, but with more trauma, politics, and emotional softness than your heart is prepared for. Sarifi is literally brought in as a sacrifice, yet she walks into that beast kingdom like she owns the joint, telling everyone, including the king who could end her in 2 seconds, to calm down and drink water. And somehow, it works. Leonhart, the Beast King himself, is equal parts intimidating and emotionally constipated, which is honestly peak romance anime energy. Their dynamic is adorable, chaotic, and surprisingly wholesome, considering the whole sacrifice situation. What's fun is how episode 1 introduces the kingdom's prejudice drama immediately, making the romance feel earned instead of slapped on. There's political tension, mysterious lore, and side characters who really need therapy but settle for emotional support glances instead. If you love fantasy worlds that balance danger, tenderness, and why are you two flirting during a life crisis, this one hooks you fast. Sliding to number 9, the Saint's magic power is omnipotent. Sei's whole vibe in episode 1 is, I didn't ask to be isekai'd, but since I'm here, I'm going to quietly become the most powerful person in the entire kingdom while minding my business. And honestly, mood. The girl gets summoned accidentally as a second option, and everyone just forgets about her. Except she ends up with magic so broken it could end inflation, global warming, and your personal heartbreak at the same time. The romance in this one is all about slow burn tension, polite smiles, and accidental touches that are definitely not accidental. Episode 1 sets the tone by giving us a kingdom full of people who underestimate her while she casually outshines all the chosen hero nonsense. The world building is cozy but not boring. The characters are charming without being wallpaper, and the male lead Albert is basically the embodiment of I will protect this woman even if she sneezes. If you want fantasy romance that feels like drinking warm tea while a handsome knight simps respectfully, this one's for you. Landing on number 8, Fina, Pirate Princess. Fina comes in hot, literally escaping danger with the energy of someone who's had enough of everyone's nonsense. Episode 1 introduces us to her wild backstory, her chaotic escape, and the mysterious samurai squad who show up like, congratulations, you're the chosen one. Probably. The show blends fantasy, pirates, old legends, and more beautiful hair animation than any one series needs. Seriously, Fina's hair has more personality than half the cast in other anime. The chemistry between Fina and Yukimaru starts simmering immediately, even though Yukimaru communicates exclusively in brooding silence and protective glares. The romance is subtle at first, but the tension? Premium. The kind of tension where everyone else in the room knows they like each other before they do. Episode 1 hooks you with the escape sequence, mysterious prophecy vibes, and dramatic world building that whispers, yes, we have secrets. Stop asking and keep watching. If you enjoy fantasy romance mixed with adventure and dramatic sword boys, this one locks you in fast. Looking at number 7, Raven of the Inner Palace. Listen, if you love palace intrigue, supernatural mysteries, and romance that's so delicate it feels like breathing on it too hard will break it, you're about to feast. Episode 1 drops you straight into the world of the Raven Consort, a girl who looks ethereal, speaks like she's survived several lifetimes, and pulls off I don't need friends energy with elite confidence. The Emperor walks in all curious and emotionally wounded, and their dynamic immediately sparks interest. Not dramatic sparkles or dramatic fall into arms romance, more like, who are you? Why are you haunting me with your presence, and why do I suddenly care about your past? The supernatural elements add mystery without drowning the story, and episode 1 builds a vibe so atmospheric it feels like watching beautifully lit fan art. If you enjoy fantasy romance that aches quietly, with characters who say nothing but communicate everything through eye contact, this series grabs you early and never lets go. Floating to number 6, Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. This anime said, what if we mixed fairy slavery, emotional wounds, forbidden affection, and the prettiest sparkly art style possible. Episode 1 immediately introduces Anne, a determined candy crafter with big dreams and bigger heartbreak potential, and Shal, a fairy warrior with resting "I hate all humans" face. Their first interaction alone could power an entire season of spicy fanfiction. The world is whimsical but cruel, making the romance tension even stronger. Episode 1 shows exactly how messed up the fairy-human dynamic is, giving the story some real weight beyond the romance. And Shal, he's the type of character who pretends he doesn't care while caring aggressively from the shadows. Anne, meanwhile, is sunshine with trauma and ambition. Their chemistry starts simmering instantly, not dramatic, but deep in your chest slow burn. The vibes are equal parts magical, emotional, and slightly dangerous. If you want fantasy romance sprinkled with angst, pretty visuals, and characters who absolutely need therapy, this one snatches your attention immediately. Crashing in at number 5, Dororo. Yes, Dororo is mostly action and tragedy, but the emotional bond between the characters has enough tenderness to make your heart malfunction. Episode 1 starts wild, like selling your unborn child's body parts to demons wild. And that sets the tone. It hooks you instantly because the stakes are sky high from minute 1. Hyakimaru walks in looking like a haunted mannequin, and Dororo instantly adopts him like a stray cat with murder potential. Their dynamic isn't a traditional romance, but the emotional connection is so strong it counts in spirit. Episode 1 gives you intense supernatural vibes, heartbreaking lore, and enough atmosphere to make you stare at your screen like, wow, this family is doomed. The world is gritty but meaningful, and despite all the darkness, the relationship between the characters shines like the emotional core of the story. If you want fantasy with depth, tension, and feelings that sneak up on you like a ninja, Dororo gets its hooks in immediately. Moving to number 4, The Executioner and Her Way of Life. Episode 1 slaps you with a twist so bold it feels illegal. You think you're watching a standard isekai setup. Boy gets summoned, world acts shocked, magical powers awaken. Then boom, the girl who seemed friendly ends him in the coldest, cleanest way possible. That's when you realise this show does not play. Manu is one of the most interesting fantasy leads because she's both compassionate and ruthlessly efficient. Then Akari shows up with that chaotic cinnamon roll energy, and suddenly we've got a dynamic that's equal parts adorable, deadly, and emotionally confusing. Episode 1 builds their relationship with layers of mystery and danger, and you can already sense the complicated feelings brewing. The world is beautifully structured, the themes hit hard, and the moral dilemmas land fast. Romance here is subtle but powerful, the kind that grows through conflict and impossible choices. If you love fantasy with twists, strong women, and complicated bonds, Episode 1 hooks you instantly. Pushing to number 3, The Apothecary Diaries. Mao Mao shows up in Episode 1 like, I just want to mind my business and mix questionable herbs, and the universe responds by dragging her into palace drama with no mercy. From her first sarcastic expression, she steals the show. Jinshi enters the room glowing like a mythical creature, and suddenly the palace gets 50% more chaotic and 100% more attractive. Episode 1 balances mystery, humour, political tension, and chemistry so smooth it feels illegal. Mao Mao has zero interest in being charming, yet ends up charming everyone, including viewers. Jinshi is elegance wrapped in secrets, and their dynamic is already teasing future emotional wreckage in the best way possible. The world building is rich without being overwhelming, and the palace setting feels alive with gossip, danger, and suspiciously pretty people. And trust me, number 3, it'll mess with your head in the best way possible. Sliding into number 2, Nier Automata, Ver 1.1a. Episode 1 tosses you into a gorgeous, melancholic apocalypse where the robots are emotional, the androids are iconic, and every shot looks expensive enough to bankrupt a small nation. 2B and 9S show up immediately as the kind of duo whose chemistry feels both subtle and devastating. The action hits hard, the soundtrack slaps, and the atmosphere sinks its claws in from the start. But what really gets you is the emotional undertone. This show makes you care about characters who technically shouldn't have emotions, but absolutely do. Episode 1 gives you that beautiful sadness vibe mixed with sci-fi fantasy depth. And the bond between 2B and 9S, it's the quiet type of romance, full of unspoken feelings, unsent messages, and philosophical pain. If you love emotional storytelling wrapped in sleek visuals and existential dread, this anime hooks you instantly. Finally, number 1, Unnamed Memory. Episode 1 of Unnamed Memory pulls you in with Prince Oscar's cursed life, the giant ruined tower, and Tanasha, the legendary witch who casually drops in like she's the final boss of elegance. Their chemistry begins instantly, not rushed but undeniably magnetic. Oscar wants help breaking his curse, Tanasha wants peace, and somehow these two end up stuck in emotional orbit. The fantasy elements hit hard from minute 1. Ancient magic, political power plays, and lore that feels lived in rather than dumped. Episode 1 sets up the relationship with a perfect blend of banter, tension, and why am I already rooting for them frustration. Tanasha's confidence pairs hilariously with Oscar's stubborn charm, creating a duo you want to follow forever. The tone is romantic but mature, dramatic but grounded, and sprinkled with enough mystery to keep you glued. If you want a fantasy romance that hooks you instantly with charm, magic, and emotional weight, this one earns its number 1 spot. And that wraps up our list of fantasy romance anime that hook you from the very first episode. Let me know which one you're watching next, or which one I criminally forgot. Drop a comment, hit like if you vibed with the list, and subscribe for more anime breakdowns filled with chaos, humour, and passionate fan energy.